Everyone, welcome back to the channel, PommyInOz. I am the Pom, and we've got a complete breakdown of round 2 with our expert tips. We'll give you some key insights, a brief preview of every game, and also our tips. So get yourself a comfy chair, get ready as we look to see which teams will win this week and get some form, back up last week's form, or look to buck the trend. So let's run that intro, get straight into it. Kicking things off, round 2 tonight, Carlton in an intriguing battle at the G versus Hawthorn, the High Flyers. Both sides are coming into this with plenty to prove, with contrasting beginnings to their season. Carlton had an abysmal opener, struggling to maintain any consistency, littered with skill errors and poor ball use, leaving plenty of question marks about the Blues and a potential flag challenge. On the other hand, Hawthorn have come out firing, showcasing an exhilarating brand of football, with their youthful brigade absolutely stepping up, claiming win after win. Key matchups in this one has to be the return of Charlie Curnow versus Tom Barras and Josh Battle. The new kids at Hawthorn have really settled in well, freeing up James Sicily. And also Carlton's Harry Mackay. He was way down in round 1. Can he find some form against a very tough backline? The midfield battle is going to be a great one too. Jai Newcombe and Will Day going head-to-head with Cripper and Walsh. And let's not forget about Carlton going in incredibly tall in this one in what will be an overcast, wet day here at the G. Their small forwards of Hawthorn are potentially the best in the comp. Given round 1 form, momentum everyone's carrying, I can't go past Hawthorn here. Hawthorn by 30 points in what will be another Sam Mitchell masterclass. Next up, Friday night showdown, MCG, the Doggies versus the Pies. A clash that really will set the tone, I feel, for the weekend. The Doggies enter this game off the back of a hard-fought 16-point win. Despite a mounting injury list at the Dogs, they have shown resilience. Kennedy was sensational in the midfield. Norton and Vandermeer looked good in the forward line. However, the absence of key players does catch up with you. No Bont, no Trelaw, no Ugle-Hagen. It does raise concerns about their depth, and can they maintain this momentum? Collingwood, after a disappointing round 0, came back with a bang. 91-point victory versus Port Adelaide. Dan Houston was sensational off halfback. The Dacos boys were instrumental in driving their team forward. They look back to their best after a blip in round 0. The key matchups here, how does Norton go against Darcy Moore? You've got to expose Reef McInnes, and last week Port Adelaide didn't do that. This could be pivotal in determining the game's outcome. Additionally, the midfield battle is going to be intense. Can Dogs use their almost their B midfield? Liberatore, a lot's going to be expected on him, and potentially the return of John DeGoey gives Collingwood an edge in this. Given the Pies' recent form, 29 points versus the Dogs. Shifting tact, we go to the G. Essendon entertain Adelaide Crows, a game that really does showcase a chance for Adelaide to prove you can trust them again. Essendon had a tough opener versus Hawthorn, losing by 26 points, but they did show signs in that round 1 game. They showed glimpses of their ability in and around the ball, and at times they did look the better side for small periods of that game. Key injuries, though, have compounded the challenges. No Langford, no Ridley in this game. Adelaide, conversely, enter the game with a wave of momentum. They were almost perfect in their victory versus St Kilda, particularly their forward line trio. Fogarty, Walker and Thilthorpe were sensational, significant threats in the forward 50. The dynamicness of Rankine, Neil Bullen, Peatling and Dawson really did give them PODs all around the ground. So versatile, so deadly. A critical matchup here will be how the defence of Essendon handles that trio. A lot is going to be expected on Ben Mackay, the big recruit. He was woeful last week. He's got a big job on his hands this week. Also, that midfield battle. Can midfield of Essendon handle Dawson, Rankine and co? Rankine and Dawson looked absolutely another level last week, albeit against not much resistance. This will be a big stage of how you determine the flow of the game in that midfield battle. Considering Adelaide's impressive form, I'm going to tip them by 14 points. My confidence is high in this one, incidentally. Port Adelaide up next. It was the biggest loss of Ken Hinckley's career, 91 points, his 13th season. Despite the setback, Hinckley remains optimistic. Richmond, they started their season on a high. Stunning victory versus Carlton. Unexpected it was, but it gets the duck off the bat. Can they win a game this year? In terms of injury news, Port, they were kind of injury-free last week. It's more tactical adjustments for them. Richmond do lose Tom Lynch through suspension, and Jacob Blight is under an injury cloud, who was very good in the first half versus Carlton. The matchup here is really, can they get some cohesion in the midfield for Port? Port's JHF and Rosie weren't their particular best last week, although finding it enough times. Richmond's intensity, though, is spectacular, and that is probably something that Port don't want. Port do not want to play a team that is hungry and is now wagging its tail. Port need to rebound from their round one loss. Richmond, again, are playing a game here at Adelaide Oval that there is no pressure on them. A win here is sensational. Showing something is just as good. Considering Port's disappointing defeat last week and Richmond's just inexperience, I'm going to give Port the nod here. 22 points to Port. Now we go across to the nighttime fixture. St Kilda at Marvel host Geelong, a matchup that really is going to let us know where St Kilda are. They enter the game after an incredibly disappointing 63-point loss to Adelaide, where the defence struggled. It was filled with mistakes and loose errors. The Saints are still missing players like Max King. He's expected to return in round 4. So is Phillippo. He's out for a while as well. And it really did showcase how their depth is being tested. Geelong, on the other hand, they were almost faultless. Dominant versus Fremantle. 78-point victory. New recruit Bailey Smith was sensational. 32 touches, 7 clearances, 5 tackles and a goal. He showcased his impact and why he is so important. A critical match here is how can they handle Jeremy Cameron, St Kilda. They really struggled with Thilthorpe's height and Walker's mobility. This guy's got both, and the midfield battle is going to be pivotal. How can they stop Bailey Smith and co when they struggled last week to really cope with them rotations in the midfield? Geelong have just as many. Considering Geelong's impressive start to the season, I'm tipping 62 points. Geelong. Now we go across Sunday at the Gabba. Reigning premiers, the Lions, entertain the Eagles. Brisbane commenced their title defence with a very hard-fought victory versus Sydney at the SCG. Despite disruptions to their plans with the Cyclone and injuries, McCarthy and Cameron, they have showcased their resilience again like they did last season. Hugh McCluggage was sensational. Zach Bailey was strong on the half-forward line. Eagles, they were all sorts of hurt. 87-point defeat to the Suns, and it intensified the discussions of where the Eagles are. It was a real disappointing performance from their senior players and their young. That midfield battle is going to be sensational. Neil, McCluggage and co, Dunkley versus Eagles' inexperienced and fairly robust midfield. Additionally, the Lions' defensive unit, Harris Andrews, going against the focal point of the attack, Oscar Allen. It was intriguing last week. The Eagles really did target Allen, and Waterman was kind of the secondary again. They've got to find some way to really hurt the Lions. Considering Brisbane's strong form, home advantage, we're going to tip Lions by 68 points. Then we head over Melbourne Derby, North Melbourne versus the Demons, a matchup that both sides will be eager to get their first dub. North Melbourne coming off a 16-point loss to the Doggies. Now, despite the defeat, the Doggies were more B-grade in the midfield, but the Roos did show signs. They were incredibly efficient despite registering 97 points, and they could have had so much more. It's definitely that maturity and making sure. Melbourne, on the other hand, narrow defeat to GWS. The Demons' defence was very strong, though, restricting GWS to 77 points, and their midfield showed signs. Gorn, Petrarca, and Oliver looking back to their best, and that's going to be a really entertaining battle versus North's on-ball brigade. The question marks remain, though, about Melbourne. Defensively strong, midfield strong. Do they have enough goals in them? This is going to be an intriguing encounter because North's defence does look shaky. Doesn't have the big names there. They're going to be under the cosh. Considering Melbourne's midfield and defensive strength, I am tipping the Demons here. 22 points. And then we finish Optus Oval, Fremantle versus Sydney in a matchup that both sides will be hungry for their first win too. Fremantle coming off a 78-point defeat. Longmuir was was very, very out of character, and he labelled it clearly unacceptable and significant improvement needed. Sydney, on the other hand, another narrow defeat. They were impressive in stages against Hawthorn and in Brisbane, but it doesn't feel aggressive enough. Feels very safe and a little bit too late at times. They were competitive, but they weren't brilliant. And this game here presents that opportunity. Fremantle, they're waiting on Shai Bolton and co to come back. Tom McCartin looks like he's going to go down back, which is the most obvious answer to Sydney's defensive woes. But the midfield battle, Heaney and Chad Warner up against Sarong Brayshaw, is a crucial battleground. Fremantle last week just couldn't gain and ascertain any dominance in this area, and they just felt like they were playing safe too. These are two sides that need to cut the shackles and go hard. I am going to go with a very low confidence level of Fremantle getting the job done by 6. That wraps up the round 2 previews and tips. Let me know your tips in the comments. Remember, footy is unpredictable, so anything can happen on game day. We're going live. Our matches of the round this week are Carlton and Hawthorn tonight, Sydney versus Fremantle on Sunday. We may have another one coming up. I've just got to check my schedule. Join us for a bit of engagement, a bit of laughs, some enjoyment in watching the footy. It really is good to just engage with you. It is the most engaging watch-along in Australia, in my opinion. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Love to hear your comments as well in the chat. Sound off down there. Great chatting to all you guys and girls. May your team kick straight. May your defence be resilient. And may your midfield dominate. I'll see you next time. Pom out.
Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless.